We've got some fun stuff to get through today. We got a great panel and a discussion on power, which is might be a little bit overwhelming because we've got, I think, 341 slides to go through.
Like that.
Something like that. But before we do that, while you're eating breakfast, I want to introduce you to Shawn from Level. He's going to run us through a couple things about their product.
Thank you, yeah. Only 250 slides are mine, so we'll make this pretty quick.
Take your time.
So Shawn Pillar with Level Home. We're the makers of the Level Bolt and Level Lock. I think many of you may be familiar with the product, but for those of you that are not, I wanted to start with a quick video just to introduce you to who we are and what we do.
Meet Level Lock, the world's only invisible smart lock. Engineered with design at the forefront, Level Lock is the smallest smart lock ever made. Get all of the capabilities you'd expect from a smart lock, but in a compact, elegant design. Finally, smart technology can also be beautiful.
Like I said, a nice quick one to start it. So Level Home was founded in 2016. We're headquartered in the Bay Area in Redwood City, California. However, as of about 6 weeks ago, we are now part of the Assa Abloy family. So very excited for this change for our company. Brings a lot more opportunities for us to integrate with some other door hardware companies. They also own Kwikset and Baldwin. So lots of things coming up in the near future that we'll be sharing as they come. So we started the company with a thesis that smart home technology shouldn't compromise the look and feel of your home. So your home aesthetic starts at the front door. Having a big, bulky smart lock on the front door can kind of ruin that aesthetic. So what we set out to do was create a smart lock that actually hid inside of the door itself. So when you walk up to your home, you don't see technology, but you still have technology. So we started by replacing the old mechanical deadbolt that you see here, technology that's been around for decades and decades, with our Level Bolt. So this slides inside the door itself. All the technology is hidden within that circle inside of the borehole, and the battery is actually hidden in the deadbolt itself. So you don't see any battery packs or motor gears or anything on the outside of the door. There's a Level Bolt, which is that one that you just saw, and there's also a Level Lock. This does incorporate technology on the outside of the door, but it still hides it in a convenient way. So the actual bezels that you see here on the side of the door hide additional technology like NFC, so that you can use things like Apple Home keys to touch your watch or your iPhone to the lock itself to lock and unlock. So a quick animation here so you can kind of see how things all work together. So you'll see as the deadbolt slides out, there's a cap on the end of the deadbolt you unscrew, and a single CR2 battery comes out of the deadbolt. That powers the entire lock itself. That Level Lock, you can get up to 6 months of battery life with that one battery. The Level Bolt, which is that retrofit that goes inside, is up to 12 months. So significantly longer battery life than many of the other smart locks that are on the market. We do all this with the highest security and safety ratings as well. So BHMA certified, anti-grade 1, we have high fire ratings. You're not compromising the safety of your home or your lock with this product. It is compatible with Apple Home, Google, Amazon, and Ring. So for your homeowners that are interested in incorporating their technology with a control system, we do have compatibility with all 4 of those. And you can see the footprint. So many other smart locks on the market, again, they all tend to take that technology and bolt it to the outside of the door. So you can see what that footprint is, significantly smaller than the other ones that are on the market. All the same great features, just hidden inside the door to lessen the footprint on the outside that you see. And so the Level Bolt there in the center is that retrofit option. The Level Lock, Lock Plus, is on the left. There are 4 different finishes too. So if you do want to match the handle set that you have with the home, there are 4 finishes where you can do that. And we do have keypads that come with it as well. They're Bluetooth. So what's really nice about that is it doesn't have to be on the door. So if you have like a post on the front porch, or if you want to hide it around the corner, as long as it's within Bluetooth range, you can still have that as an option for your customers. It doesn't have to be on the door though, so you still maintain that hidden technology. So another quick video here to showcase the Apple Home Keys functionality.
Yeah, I thought I had it. There's like a little thing, man. Hold that for a second. There we go.
Just wanted you to be able to see it, but there's no.
Yeah.
That's great.
Got it. I'm just gonna fake it.
Hey, Henry, can you turn that without, just so I can see it a little better?
All right, and for those of the home builders that like to have a higher end handle set, we do have some partnerships with other hardware OEMs, so Rocky Mountain Hardware, Omnia, Rejuvenation, Water Street Brass, just to name a few that we work with. You'll actually see some of those sell our products bundled in with their hardware. You'll see powered by Level, so it's the really high-end handle sets that actually embed our technology inside the door. So again, you're seeing a high-end finish on the outside while still having the smart technology on the inside. We do have a dedicated builder channel, so we have customized builder pricing, support, product offerings. So it's not just a retail brand, there is the builder support as well. So, and then just one last video as we close out. This is some of the media and PR that we've gotten over the last couple of years. Being kind of a new technology, it had really a lot of traction early on with some of the late night talk shows. So some pretty neat things that were said about the product when it first came out.
Come on, let's go. Yeah. Let's go. Return to the Mac. Get it, what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Siri, unlock house.
If you're looking for a smart lock that doesn't scream smart lock, Level has you covered with this Level Lock Plus.
Somewhere between my broccoli glasses for the game. No.
Oh, home key is legit.
A tap of your device on the door and voila.
And you can even unlock with your Apple Watch.
Meanwhile, Apple's hottest new accessory is a $330 physical lock that can unlock the door with a simple tap from an iPhone or an Apple Watch. But of course, no headphone jack.
Well, that's because I read that Apple is now selling a door lock for your house that you can unlock with an iPhone. So in case you lose your iPhone, make sure to keep a spare one under the mat.
Apple HomeKey is by far the coolest way to get into your house. So cool.
Everything that can be on your phone probably should be on your phone.
All right, well, thank you for having me and enjoy the rest of the day.
Awesome, thanks.
Wow. Okay.
Just so you all know, 60% of the people up here are named Shawn, which is awesome. So with that, I want to introduce the panel to you today. We're going to be talking about smart power. I think there's a slide at the beginning of this. There we go. There it is. So I'll let the panelists introduce themselves. We've got a lot of experience here when it comes to power, and I think what's kind of interesting about this session is we've been talking about power and energy for as long as I've been in this industry. That conversation's evolved over time. Power generation, backup generation, power conditioning, surge protection, power storage, what's an inverter. There's all sorts of conversations that have taken place in the last 20 years when it comes to power. I think the landscape can be a little bit confusing and overwhelming right now. The change is coming like drinking from a fire hose. There's been so many innovations in power, so many devices that make all this stuff work, so many ways to put it all together, so many discussions about financial incentives and government rebates and manufacturer rebates that it can be confusing. We're going to try and demystify some of those things today, give you a baseline for what is here and probably what's coming, how it integrates with the other devices we're going to install in our homes or our clients are going to install in their homes, and what to think about moving forward when it comes to your power offerings, and even how to present this to your customers in some ways. So there's a lot of information here. I doubt we're going to cover everything you want to know in 60 minutes. So when we get to the end of this presentation, you'll see everyone's names and email addresses if you want to reach out independently with questions. If you need help designing power solutions, there's a great team here that can help you do that. So I'll let you introduce yourselves before we kick it off. Angie, might as well start.
Oh, fantastic. My name is Angie Larson. I'm with Savant Systems, and I'll talk a little bit today about how smart power can be a great foundation for any size home that's looking to have that little bit of elevation into the smart space, right? And so Savant as a company is kind of known for delivering smart home solutions, whether it's entertainment or audio, video, lighting, intelligent shades, and we believe that smart power is really the next frontier in the smart home. So we'll be talking about kind of how to think about smart power as part of an overall smart home.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Henry Kim from LG Electronics. Today I'll be discussing with the panel in what type of products that actually LG offers in the whole smart home and electrification and power products. And of course, like working with companies like Savant, we like to do integration because single manufacturer can't do it all. So when we talk about some of the partnerships, integrations, how we all can work together within the ecosystem, really learning from each other in this endeavor to really drive some of the electrification into to the market.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Shawn. I'm with Homelink as the general manager there. Our goal is to work with production builders, build-to-rent, and also multifamily to make real estate smart, secure, and sustainable. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the numbers behind it, the financing, as well as some of the trends that we're seeing and why builders should consider sustainability as a standard.
Awesome. So let's kick it off. Shawn, you want to hop right into it? So we're talking about what you're talking about now, which is, where do we start? What is the foundation for a power solution for residential property? How much does it cost? How do we get engaged in it? So why don't you kick it off with that?
Yeah, sounds great. So I would say that we're all in a referral business here, including builders, and you think about Net Promoter Score and what customers want. So we always look at what the demand is from the consumer base, and right now, sustainability and energy efficient homes is wanted by over 70% of people out there looking for new homes. So that gives home builders a huge competitive advantage. And I would say, we're going to talk more about the financial benefits of this, of course. But the financial, it's great to do sustainability, but it always comes down to numbers as well in order to make things a standard. And the numbers really are starting to make sense in certain regions around the country when it comes to both consumers that want this as electricity bills continue to rise, but also for builders. There's a real advantage for builders to do this on the front side of things to help the consumers out, but also, you'll see here shortly how it can be a competitive advantage for you against the resale market as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a balancing act now, right? With financial incentives and some government mandates in certain markets for how we're going to have to manage this, or this really a balancing act between the products we install, the cost of those products, the incentives and the rebates and what have you, right?
Yeah, lots of government incentives out there today that's going to be around until 2032. My guess is that will continue to be extended, no matter who's in office. And so I'm really excited about where we can take these incentives.
So as a homeowner, can I recoup some of this money that I invest?
You can. So let me show you a couple. This next slide here is around just talking a little bit more about the average cost. These are all national averages, of course. It's going to vary from region, of course. But when you look at the cost of solar, EV, battery, there's costs here, but one of the advantages for a builder is that the solar industry has been through a lot of turmoil over the last few years, and I think the industry really needs someone to step up to create better standards. There's two areas that consumers in years past have been taken advantage of, and it's very large commission rates tied to solar in the past, and also in general, financing tied to it with third parties was extremely high. So when you think about the builder advantage, doing the right things, not only for yourself, but also for the consumer, the cost can be, dropped down substantially because there's a way that you can streamline and eliminate some of the sales fees that are out there. And then of course, you just think about the sheer volume and the discounts tied to that. I think new construction and production builders in particular are in a pole position to create these standards that they can benefit from, and then as well as the consumer. And when you look at this graph, usually the ROI for a consumer is somewhere between years 6 and 10 when you think about the cost for solar. And that's going to vary from state to state or utility provider from utility provider because you'll see these big swings. So like I'm in Virginia and I have Dominion Power, and I would say that on average, my electric bill is growing at a 4% clip every single year. So if you look out for the cost of, home ownership, whether you have a 5-year, 10-year, 30-year mortgage, this can have a profound impact when you look at your total cost of ownership of a home. And I think that we had a great dinner last night with John Galante and a number of people. And one of the topics that we talked about is builders really need to look at the total scope of total cost of ownership of a home. And we need to start marketing that because there's a distinct difference with an efficient, smart, and safe home versus the retail market. And I was told years ago from someone in the builder space that builders don't really compete against one another, they compete against the resale market. So I've never, in my history of being involved with security and sustainability, I feel like this is a moment that these builders, can really take advantage of what's happening out in the marketplace, including rising utility rates, and what's happening in the solar industry, where we really need to get rid of the Wild West and start standardizing on business practices that make sense for the builder and for the consumer. And of course, you'll see here, sustainable homes traditionally, and this is more from a Zillow stat, you can see that the numbers actually, you can charge more for sustainable homes, of course. Now there's rebates, that are also available for builders to consider, but I just wanted to point that out as well, that the cost of these homes will go up if you do the right thing for the builder and for the consumer.
Right. So to add to that, Shawn, so for last 2 years, actually, LG has been putting together some pilot sites, working with the actual end users, consumers on the home sites. And we are talking with the people with solar panels and batteries and things like that, where we're actually doing the whole home management for energy. And the biggest saving they saw is, of course, having the solar panels already, and then being able to utilize the batteries to store that solar energy, and then utilizing the energy when it's high peak, and they're getting about the savings about upwards of 50-60% when they do it right. And I really do believe that when we're talking to these consumers, when there's a new construction, and if you can incorporate all that in, the payback for the consumer will come much faster because, like you said, the builders can streamline the initial cost, which is much better than doing it afterwards.
Yeah.
And you can really add that premium when you do actually sell the home to the end user for the new construction.
One of the important things you just said is when you do it right.
Right.
So I think we're going to start touching on some of those things. Shawn, you've got a good head start here, but we're going to talk about how to do this the right way.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback on what you just said, Henry. I think when you incorporate sustainability as a market differentiator against the resale market, you also have to keep in the back of your mind the importance of a platform and the value of a one-app offering to make things streamlined and seamless for the consumer. So the good news is there's a lot of applications and platforms out there that start incorporating solar and soon EV and battery. And the reason why that's important is not only having, instead of using 5, 6, 7 different apps to control your home, the convenience alone is worthwhile. But the real value here is that the data that's being collected from all these individual devices, if they can start working together, and you level on top of that an AI engine that will efficiently manage your home to optimize savings or optimize the lifestyle that you want, and you can turn that sustainability volume up and down based on your particular needs. There's a lot of value there, depending on your family size, the age of your kids, and the comfort that they want. So
I didn't even pay him to say this, you guys. I didn't. And it's great.
So I think that you'll see that in time with this one app offering. There's a lot of value there, and it also through some of these platforms you'll be able to promote sustainability living and and promotions around this as well. So really excited about the future with all these items working together.
So I know you started with this slide, but I know you have a couple more.
Yeah.
Excuse me. On how to get started. How do I build the foundation for a system like this?
Exactly. So there's a couple ways to think about this. One way to approach this is that it's rolled into the cost of the home. That's one aspect. Another aspect of it is that you want to create a sustainable ready home. And so a couple of years ago, I reached out to a few of the top 10 production builders, and we proposed in a white paper exactly what is a sustainable home. No one has really taken the lead in defining what that is. And I would say that it's not clearly defined as well, but everyone is starting to have guardrails on what that means, at least around solar, EV, and battery. And so what was fascinating around this is that when we propose what a sustainable ready home would look like for solar, for EV, and battery, their overall cost average, again, regionally, it could vary, but nationwide, the cost average came out to $550. So, what's the value to market a sustainable ready home? And can you get rebates or sell more product or increase the value of your home by more than $550? So I know this all comes down to numbers, but that's something that I think is really important to think about. So again, you can roll it into the mortgage. If not, make it sustainable ready. And then that's where the next couple of slides, I just want to point out, some definitions of and what to do around sustainable ready. And I think both of these examples, the two slides I'll show, one is for solar, and then the other one is for EV. And of course, you have a battery version as well, but I just wanted to point out a couple things here. And it's as simple as, items like having a clean roof. Like if you don't think proactively about it, there's pipes all over the place, which limits the number of panels that you put on the roof. So if you just have the foresight of looking ahead and what are you trying to accomplish, having a clean roof is actually a big deal. 2 or 3 more panels on a roof can make a profound, impact.
I mean, does anybody here think they can't charge an extra $500 and change for a rough-in for solar? Right, it feels like a no-brainer to me, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we get into some of the rebates and some of the other things and the value of marketing, it is a big opportunity.
And to add, as an end user for solar panels, actually, so it was an afterthought. But if it was a ready home, the exterior would look so much prettier as well, because now you don't have to have an extra gang box on the outside, trying to have the piping and everything to make it pretty as possible. But you see a lot of wiring going up and down. So if it's already, it's ready for you, I think that's a great selling point as well, as a consumer as well.
Yeah, because if you do this after the market, it's thousands of dollars.
Right.
And you're ripping drywall, and no one wants to do that after they move in. So I think, you're going to see, if you just look at the data around electric vehicles, we're being electrified, and the data is showing that things are going to, continue down that path. And I think, again, the retro market, it's hard for them to catch up and create efficient homes, and it's very, very costly. And, builders are in pole position with new construction with very, in an inexpensive way to really make a difference and start creating trends across the marketplace. So, you'll see just some of the things here, like having a line and a junction box up in the attic, and you have a string that you can pull wire through after the fact. Again, very inexpensive, streamlined things that you can put on architecture plans and really define a process. And then other things like with EV chargers, whether you have 1 or 2, depending on the size of the garage, you can pre-wire for EV charger 240 volt amp on one side of the garage and wire it across the back side of the garage to have a second one. Mm-hmm. So again, nothing too crazy. This is very simple. This is a simple change in the architecture plans. And I think that there's, a lot of national integrators, like ourselves that would look at a plan and we could show where low voltage goes, where smart gadgets go, where security
like a low
products.
voltage designer, what a great idea.
Yeah, and sustainability.
Yeah.
All this stuff can be kind of rolled, right into an architecture plan.
So in the interest of time, I want to roll through a couple of your other points really quickly so we can move on to Henry's appliances. But you've got some information on solar, I think.
Yep. And so think about some of on the profit side, what does this mean for builders? And it's going to vary as well from who you use, but I just want to give you some insight of some of the rebates that are available. So not only are we increasing the value of your home, but the rebates that are tied to it as well, potentially. And so I just want to point out, like a prime market could be where there's more state tax incentives. So that could be California, Texas, New York are examples of prime states, and then standard states is everywhere else. Now, average size solar system is 8 kilowatts. So most of the items that I've been associated with are in that 1,700 to 2,400 range. So I just wanted to point out the value to builders. And so you think about the $550 expense versus the potential rebates. What's the conversion rate that's needed to make this work? And that conversion rate is very, very low.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's great.
And then just to kind of round things out here, last thought on my side is, there's lots of regulatory changes, and just want to emphasize again that builders are in pole position, and there's a lot of people out there that want to guide builders to go the right route with this, and hope that you guys continue to learn more as we kind of go through the presentation today.
Awesome. So I want to transition here to Henry's products, but really what this is about is now that we've got a foundation for energy generation and storage potentially in the house, what are these devices that we're connecting to, and how do we maximize the benefit of connecting electrical devices to electrical storage and power generation systems? And there's been a lot of talk about smart appliances. We're going to touch on that. We've got a couple experts here from LG and from GE. And how those integrate. So that I think, Angie, you keep referencing the smart refrigerator that tells you what you have to add to your shopping list. I think that's always been the promise of a smart appliance. That's not what we're going to talk about today. It's really about which devices in your home consume or require the most power and the most energy, and how do we make that efficient when we work together with these systems, and how can we solve other problems we hadn't really considered with some of these solutions. So Henry, do you mind?
Right. So today's presentation, it's not really about LG itself, but the technology behind this electrification. So once the homes are ready to take in all these electric appliances, what type of products you really need to think about, right? So why do we need to do electrification? This has always been a big question from the industry level. So the one big thing is there has been a huge global trend in decarbonization, and that's not going to stop, right? The trend's been there since last 10, 15 years, and we need to have ability to really decarbonize for the better future and for the generation to come. And the way to do that is electrification. And the next part is to be really efficient, right? So those appliances, any electric devices have to be very efficient, which will lead to decarbonization. So that's the ultimate goal. So when we look at the whole home, these are the products that are really impacting the cost savings and impacting how people utilize the products and things like that. So one of the things is that you really have to think about how to incorporate all these products into the build, right? And by working with partners like Savant and Grid Marbles, and we can bring the ecosystem, that doesn't mean the builders are stuck choosing just one platform. The whole industry, what we're trying to do is work together so that you're not stuck with one. So if you happen to choose Savant system, and we'll work hard to integrate our product into it so you can use Savant system. If you're not use like alarm.com system, you can do that. If you use the LG system, you can do that. So I think that's the key from the manufacturer side, how we really integrate together and build partnership for more options for the builders and the end users.
Yeah, I don't want to jump too far ahead. Oh, go ahead. you're
I was just going to say, I think what's interesting when you look at this chart, which is the first time I'm seeing it, I think it's very cool to think, hey, some of these sort of dedicated smart appliances, right? This is how we think about the smart appliance market. This consumes like more than 40% of all the energy in the home. Like these, however many bullets you have on the screen here, right, are consuming almost half of the energy in the home. And so that's a really important thing to think about, are these, what we can do in this dedicated appliance space.
Yeah.
So, another thing is a big part of is a heat pump. It's a heat pump is really driving the electrification. So without this type of technology, it's really hard for the decarbonization to happen. So the key products that we do work on is a heat pump products. Recently, a lot of people are driving the heat pump laundry, dryers, and also induction cooking. When it comes to like induction cooking, the main point is it's about 2 to 3 times more efficient, and so you're going to be saving a lot of cost when it comes to usage as well. When it comes to like heat pump dryers, you're like 65% more efficient. It may take a little longer to dry, but the efficiency is there, so it's a much better option. Another part is when you're a builder, working in with this heat pump technology, especially the dryer, you don't have to worry about like a ducting system and things like that, because there's no ducting, because it's just recirculating the air within the system. And on top of that, what it can do is if you happen to have a humid basement, actually it'll dehumidify as it is doing, because it's taking the air and it's taking the cold air out. So it kind of helps with the dehumidification as well. So that's some benefit.
Well, I think there's some hidden costs. We're going to talk about it later, so I don't want to steal all of your thunder from later, Angie. But the service size that's required for a home when you're doing load calculations as an electrical contractor is pretty significant when you start adding up the current draw of all these devices, and you're going to have some slides that show that those amounts. So if you're able to reduce the overall service size, or reduce the number of breakers required, or the panel size that's required, and the wire gauges that are required to drive all these components, you can bring the home building cost down to begin with. Right?
Exactly. And to Shawn's point earlier, if you can pre-architect all this in advance, it's a much better solution.
And I would say, like with the data too, if something's wrong with these systems, they notify you. You know, traditional ways that wasn't the case, and it gets really bad and very expensive. So super convenient for the consumers as well.
Another big part of it is actually the heat pump water heaters. Water heating is a significant part of using electricity or even gas. One product that I do want to focus on is that we do have an air-to-water heat pump product. So this type of technology is trying to drive the electrification, and we're trying to make it easier for builders. So what we call AWHP, what this product does is it's all in one system, where you don't have to run a refrigerant line. So there's a hot water system within the single unit, and the only thing you have to pipe is the water line into your basement or wherever your water tank is, so that you don't have to run a extra electrical line or refrigerant line. So as an industry, we try to make things much easier for the builders to help with the electrification in order to take in the ultimate goal for decarbonization. So this is how it kind of looks like. It's a built-in heating system within the unit itself, and then it'll actually heat the water from the outdoor unit, and then send the heated water into the basement for the wet heating and the water heating. And another thing is a big thing is a heat pump HVAC system. So traditionally people are using gas, but I mean today the heat pump has advanced so much that it can really work in one of the coldest weather. So recently we've seen the efficiency go up to about 80%, even at -5 degrees. It can work up to -15 degrees, whereas in the past, you had to be like above 5 degrees to make it work. So it has really advanced a lot in technology, which also can help the builders not have to worry about bringing another gas line or anything like that.
Cool.
Okay. when we talked about the need of power, some of these products are so efficient that you don't have to worry about running multiple breakers or multiple wiring. Nowadays, a lot of people are working on a single unit that can provide the power to the indoor units. So for example, on our side, it's not just us, it's some of the other products too. You just have a 140 amp and that will supply the power to your indoor unit. So you only have to worry about having one breaker, for instance. So those are the type of things that we're really, really pushing for. That's cool. Okay. And with all these different elements in the home, there has to be a way to really manage it. And I think the Savant will come up with they have a solution that actually does a lot of management as well. For LG, we are doing management within our ecosystem, but when we partner with like Angie and Savant, then they can really work in conjunction with all different types of brands. So I think it would be best if Angie talks about how Savant can actually work within the multiple ecosystem.
Sure. Oh, great.
But before you start, I'll introduce this with a comment, which I think is awesome. So anytime we talk about a smart home, a connected home, an automated home, the most important thing we do is have the ability to monitor and measure, right? So when we're talking about saving energy, this is a big mystery. You can't look at an appliance and know off the top of your head how much energy it's consuming at that moment. So you've got to have a way to not just understand that, but then to control that. And the next promise of control is automation, correct?
Right. Right, and that'll be really interesting. And as Shawn said, like, what's control versus automation, right? Automation becomes responsive to who's living in the house, right? And how do we think about that responsive behavior versus something that's being controlled? So I think the first thing we think of as we look at everything is what is today's home? Like, what does today's home look like? And whether this is do-it-yourself products from a consumer side or whether this is professionally installed, all of these pieces are somehow in a home, right? Like you're looking at a chart that's like, hey, there's shades, there's music, there's lighting. All of these pieces are part of the home, and all of these devices have that potential to contribute into the smart home experience. And kind of like, we talked about, they can either be controlled individually or they can have the benefit of some of that connection, which means they can work together and they can be able to be more a better experience for the consumer. So how do we think about the smart home from energy and that energy discussion that we just had, right? And I'll just touch on a couple of the points that this team laid in, right? One is like the adoption is so small. Right? You guys are here and you're in this, you're at the tech home builder discussion. So you're thinking about technology in the construction that you do, which is awesome. And that's why we're all here. But this is really such a small portion of what's really out there, right? Only 6% of homes in the US even have solar on them at all, right? And so there's the opportunity is vast as we sit here to build new homes that kind of can enter into these, stats.
I think it's kind of cool that, we're sitting here talking about this. If only 6% of the homes have even solar, let alone a storage system in the country, why is that? And I think it's because it's big, scary, and expensive, or at least people think it's big, scary, and expensive.
Exactly.
And we're here to try and help you understand that you can make it less big, less scary, and less expensive, right?
Right, yeah. Right. And what's fascinating, though, if you look at kind of like that next stat, is only 6% of homes have solar, but twice that many are starting to think about emergency power like generators, right? So people are starting to get the, whoa, I could be without power. And a lot of that's coming from what's happening in climate or weather events or other types of events that we're experiencing. And, we've had some in the last few months, right? And so this is becoming a big awareness category from the consumer. So this is not something you should shy away from discussing because the consumer is thinking about this, right? And they're going to spend this money. They're either going to spend it up front with you as you build the home, or they're going to come in and retrofit this type of product, right? So I think this is really, something that you can feel pretty confident talking about directly with the consumer, right? So think about that, and you're starting to see You talked about regulations and other things that are happening. You're starting to see those regulations support these types of conversations, right? In the state of California, right, they've just passed regulations that you can't even attach new solar without some kind of battery, right? Those regulations are going to force us all into this type of thinking, right? So like the stats that you see, right, only 6% of US homes have solar. Only 30% of those have batteries, right? So like these numbers get, pretty interesting as you look at them, but this is all gonna turn upside down as we look at what's happening in the changes in the market. And so that's where I think we see things like, what is smart power? And you did kind of a cool graph, kind of other cool graphs of like what's the anatomy of how we think about smarter power inside of our homes. And I kind of pick on a couple of main categories here. And the first one I'll start with is, what is the source of power for the home? That's where I'll start, right? And a lot of us think about, well, the grid, right? That's the source of power for the home. And maybe that was pretty true even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even last year, I don't know. Like the main source of power to the home has always traditionally been the grid. But I think when we think about this, you need to think that there's other power sources now that are competing inside of a home, whether that's the solar that we've been talking about, whether that's a generator that we're talking about, whether it's battery storage that's coming from, either solar or grid charge. It's not very far away where a vehicle will be able to charge the home, right? That's here. There's companies at this event showing bidirectional EV technology, right? And what does that mean? Like if you haven't heard the word bidirectional EV technology, it means your home can charge your car and your car can power the home. That's coming. That's now, right? As we look at that type of technology.
Well, I know that a lot of this is being adopted in the luxury market. And one of the examples I thought about with the bidirectional chargers in the luxury space is if you've got a vacation home that's smaller than your primary home and you drive your electric vehicle to your vacation home, you suddenly brought a backup system to your vacation home. So you plug your car into the charger, you don't need a generator in the vacation home. If you've got a power outage, your car is going to keep that house online until the power is restored. It's a pretty awesome concept. You've got a portable generator in your vehicle.
It's an awesome concept.
Yeah.
And it's going to become prevalent across the space. So the first thing I would think about when you think about what is smart power, what are they up here talking to me about? Think about that a home now can have different sources of power coming into it. And how as a builder are you thinking about those different sources of power? Okay, I would say start there. The second piece I would think of is like, how else do you get started? Think about the panel, okay? Think about the breaker panel, think about the panel in the home. Is it intelligent, right? Is there anything in that panel that offers intelligence, right? Can it tell you what's most used, what's consuming the most power, when the power is being consumed, what times of day? Is there any intelligence in those panels?
How much you're generating, right?
Right, how much, all of that is a massive portion of the smart home. And I think that becomes the secret sauce of all of this is understanding the footprint of the home, the homeowners, how they're using the home, and what is that usage. So think about the panel. We'll talk a little bit about some of the options that are out there just for education, but I think that's a good way to start. And then, like we heard from LG, there's going to be all kinds of direct appliance control that we can apply into that, right? We talked about all of them, EV chargers, smart ranges, water heaters, and so on, right? Those are all big portions of what you can do as we look at what I call the anatomy, right, of smarter power as we look at these homes. And so I think, my big piece here, and let me go back to this slide, is really you need to start with a smarter panel. Like if you want to know where to get started, I think you start with, and I'm going to say the things I think you start with. I think you start with solar, you start with smarter appliances, and you start with a smart panel. Those are the places to get started. If you don't know where to get started as a builder, I think those are the places, right? Other stuff will come, generator discussions, battery discussions, but to get the home ready for all of this electrification and everything that you're doing, that's where you really get started. And I think there's a couple of cool things as you look at why a smart panel, because that's going to be a big thing for us to talk about. But the first thing you look at in a smart panel is you can control at the circuit level what power is being consumed, right? That can happen manually. Like I, as a homeowner, want to conserve energy because there's a time of use at 4 p.m. in California, and I want to conserve energy. It can happen automatically. At 4 p.m., we can automatically put the home into some kind of eco mode and start to reduce some of those costs. We were talking to a builder in, I think, up in British Columbia yesterday, and they said their swings are from 5 cents a kilowatt hour, and then at 4 p.m. it becomes $6.
Wow.
Whoa.
Like that's unbelievable. Like I made him repeat it 3 times, right? I was like, wait, tell me that again, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of home you live in, that's a big swing, right? And so these kinds of time of use charges, if they're not already in your markets, they're coming to your markets, and these are gonna be a big thing to deal with on the appliance level and everything else. So lots of reasons. We don't need to read all the bullets, but I think about that smarter panel. The other thing that Shawn brought up that was just beautiful, right, is how can a smart panel help solve the problems of electrification? Because we can all sit up on the stage and say it's super great and decarbonizes things and all that kind of stuff, and it is, but it also adds expense into the home. And one of the things Shawn brought up, right, is that service size, and we're all struggling with that. A 200 amp home's become a 400 amp home, a 400 amp home's become a 600 amp home, and I could go on and on and on, right, as to what that brings into the market space, and whether that's new construction that you're all dealing with, or whether that's retrofit when the homeowner realizes they need to replace their gas stove with an electric range. How are they going to do that, right? And all of a sudden, that electric range becomes a whole lot more expensive than the consumer had any idea they were going to be faced with, right? That's a huge educational item here as we look at that. So think about how a smart panel can help you balance the way that you use energy. So I think about this as a do not exceed feature. So when you think of the term budget, think of it as like a do not exceed feature. So we never want this home to exceed 200 amps. We may have more than that wired in, but we are going to use intelligence to manage that do not exceed. That can be a huge cost savings to the homeowner, and all you have to do is prioritize, right, what you need to use, right? Am I prioritizing my washer dryer over the EV charger? Maybe most of the time I am. Sometimes I might want to override that, depends on the circumstance. But this idea that we can create a power budget and stay within that, this is huge. It's just been adopted by the NEC code, right? So the biggest challenge you're going to find with this is just making sure your electricians and your local, municipalities and everything else are educated on this. But it is absolutely part of the latest and greatest electrical.
Because you're way outside the traditional load calculation process, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, to add to that, I know we had some discussion with some construction builders, and they brought that up because what they mentioned was, well, we don't want to really go to 400 amp because either too expensive or just can't.
Of course.
So how can we, like you said, just put a limit?
How can we put a
work on that?
That's
a very intelligent part, and I think that's a great thing. And if the builders can kind of calculate all that into it, and building these smart, intelligent panels, that'll help a lot in the industry.
I think this is going to be huge. And I think, again, it all starts with that intelligence in the panel. As we think of that, you got to have that intelligence. And I think there's a couple of different options here. Consider this just like general education. I think there's generally 2 types of ways you can approach intelligence in the panel. One is to bring intelligence in, like, I'm going to call it one circuit at a time for lack of better argument, right? Which is like, okay, I'm going to bring in these intelligent modules. They fit right inside whatever standard breaker panel I'm delivering as part of my build, and I'm going to bring these in. Maybe I do, the entire 200 amp service, or maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just doing the 4 to 6 main use circuits that I know are using the most energy, right? And so I'm just going to, as a builder, hey, I'm just going to put minimal intelligence in the panel to understand the biggest consumers. We know what those are. We're not surprised by what those are, and we're going to bring those in. That's one way to think about a smarter panel, is to think about it at the circuit level, right? The other way to think about it on the other side of the chart is just replace the entire 200 amp service with a full intelligent panel and intelligent breakers, right? And so there's kind of two different ways you can go with this. There's pros and cons to each. There's cost benefits and so forth, and maintenance benefits and so on. But I think these are the two ways that you should think about it. Now, I have an opinion, but either way you go, this is the right way to go, is pick one of these horses and ride this with your homes of having intelligence at the panel.
And I would add, like with each smart breaker that you add in, it's more awareness for the consumer. And so with more awareness, it's good behavior, not only to save money, but to do the right thing too. So, you know, data tells a story, and people just don't have access to that information today. And that's where everything changes, because people will have more control of their home because they know what's actually happening and the amount of energy that's being used by each one of these devices.
And I'll put on my sales and marketing hat for a minute, but if you're offering a product as a builder that includes some sort of smart power monitoring and control solution, and your competitors are not, it's not a big investment, as I've investigated. It's not a very expensive to do this. You're light years ahead of your competitors. You're doing things that no one else has even considered. And for a consumer who's concerned about what their monthly electrical bill will be, this is a huge tool in their toolbox to take care of that.
Yep.
Yeah, and when Shawn says not a big investment, I mean, I think we should just get that out in the room, right? You can do 4 to 6 of those main electrical circuits for $1,000, $1,200. You know, we can look at those kinds of packages, but you know, we can keep this pretty low as that kind of initial investment. And I think what you said is great. Not only does it give information to the consumer, it's a little bit of the, what somebody call it yesterday, the Prius effect. Like, I can look at it and it's cool, and I've got this whole understanding that I didn't have before. So you can deliver that there, right? Other aspects of the smart home we've talked about, right? The EV performance, I think we can move through that. Smart appliances, what we can do in the smart appliance sector as we look at the home. So I think these are all the pieces that we've all kind of touched on as what that looks like, right? We've talked a lot about battery and what that looks like as part of the home.
Well, pause on this. I know you want to run through this. That battery solution has evolved, right? There used to be 31 pieces on the wall to put this together. There were.
True.
So just kind of explain how that's sort of transitioned.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like if you saw an original installation, you saw all kinds of disparate boxes, wiring, which goes first, how does it all evolve? Now you're starting to see things like you see on the screen, which has the inverter on the top, right? Think about that inverter as kind of, I'm going to call it a traffic manager for lack of a better term, right? Where it's dealing with what is the source of power that we're currently, right? Am I currently getting my source of power from solar? Am I getting it from the grid? Where am I getting that and how am I managing it? So think of that top piece as all of that traffic management capability and that inverter to deal with that piece. And then the bottom kind of part of that is the battery stack. And what you see is that technology, like Shawn said, it's getting better and better. One of the very simple things, if you look at cabinets like this, you might notice in pictures or marketing graphics, or you'll see one live on the exhibit floor, they're becoming thinner and thinner, right? So that you can put them in places like a garage without being intrusive. There's lots of regulations around serviceability of batteries. You got to be able to get to them, pull them out, maintain them, replacement. Well, if you got to pull them forward, it means you've got to be able to have clearance for that, all that kind of stuff. Some of these great systems now are side loading so that you can get the thinnest kind of activity, right? So think about all this stuff. How tall is the garage space? Is your battery designed to fit right in that height and all of that? So there's a lot of evolution, I think, in that headspace too of how to make this easier to fit into a traditional home.
Even if you took the old style system with multiple parts and put it together, there's just a cost savings in installation, a cost savings in engineering, a cost savings in understanding. There's just space saving in the home. It's like everything else in the tech world. It's getting smaller, it's getting more efficient, it's getting easier, it's getting less expensive, right?
First battery solutions like this were like a whole shed full of
And they were $500,000.
stuff, right? And they were $500,000, and they had a whole cooling system. And like, it's absolutely changing in just like these huge, dramatic ways as we look at this. And I think, you look at that battery storage, like Shawn said, this is a huge advantage to the consumer to add into their home. And even if you do like the discussion we had of like battery ready, like this home is battery ready, I think that can be a really important piece of this.
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of good points, and I think there's innovation in the product and the maintenance and the service of it. But with this innovation, you'll see, pricing of solar panels and batteries, and everything's dropping down because, of supply and demand, of course, but also technology is getting smarter within it. So keep that in mind as well. There's a lot of, perceived value from the consumer as the pricing of these great products are also dropping.
I'd love to spend the last few minutes we have in this discussion talking about the how part of this. Because if I leave this room and know that there's all really great stuff, I don't really know what to do when I get outside that door. Right? There's some great products, there's some great data when it comes to rebates and savings, there's some great appliance options. I don't really know how to put all this together. So I'll ask each of you, or all of you, what do you recommend as the first step to providing a better option and solution for your home buyer?
Yeah, so our first step with production builders and also multifamily build-to-rent scenarios is a discovery call. So different products and software is used based on the real estate asset itself. And so you have to adjust to the real estate asset. And then it's a collaborative effort of what's needed, what manufacturers, there might be long-term contracts in place. And so you just have to have a sit-down discussion and figure that out with the goal of putting this on the architecture plan and just spelling it all out. So that has worked out really well for us. Where after discovery, you start going through the general process from there. But getting a lay of the land up front and throwing it all out on the table, understanding those relationships, I think are critical.
From our perspective, I think it's we do have a lot of stuff that we have to do in order to educate the market and the builders and our customers. One of the big things we're trying to do is work with our sales team to really hone in on this electrification and the smart energy related products and services. So my main goal is to tell the builders and the customers is like when you are talking with the manufacturer rep or anybody, just bring up the conversation of how do I start the really making the intelligent home. And then if the salesperson has some knowledge, they'll talk about it, get you started, or they can refer to their counterparts within their own company. And that's the best way to start because you have to understand the whole landscape and do the discovery initially to really plan it out.
Yeah, and my pitch is the easy one, right? Go home and understand if you're putting smarter panels into your homes right now. That right there will help you understand how to deal with service ice capabilities and hate to use that word, future-proofing, but right, like make that consumer understand what their home can do in the future. So like, I think that's the biggest thing that you could take away is, are we putting any intelligence? I know it's a budget line item add into your pieces, right? And how do we do that for the least intrusive way possible? But I think you can put some basic intelligence in, and then maybe there's upgrade options from there. But I think start with panel intelligence.
Yeah, and for my 2 cents, I think what I would suggest is if you're interested in designing a solution or having assistance designing a solution, that you work with your electrical contractors, you work with your integrators, you probably schedule a meeting with the 2 of them and have them partner. And if they don't, bring in a technical designer, little plug for myself in here, but bring in someone who understands all the concepts and the various players, because we've got 3 different people sitting here that could all work together, but you've got to be the quarterback in that discussion and put together a solution that works for you, your product, and your clients. You can have a really great experience and have a really great product and really, really differentiate yourself on the power side if you have a good design to start with. And this is a good team up here to start with, I think. So with that, I think we have a minute and a half for questions.
Yeah.
This slide is kind of interesting. This is the type of engineering documentation that you require to build a solution like this that would come from an engineer or a designer. But once you have that, this is something your electrical contractor can read and follow. It's something the inspector can understand. It makes for a complete solution out there. So everybody's information's on the screen up there if you want to maintain that or reach out to any of these folks after the event. Are there any questions? Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.